Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Glad to be here. Happy to be here. We made it. I'm going to wait a minute or two and let everybody come in. Just let me know you can hear me. Hi. It's good to be with you guys live. I know some of you guys were here yesterday. I moved it to today, so I'm glad you're here. Got a lot of energy coming in, a lot of messages that want to be shared with you guys. So tell me where you're from. Just say hello while we wait for people to join. Hello, Croatia. Wow, San Francisco. You made it, Sandra. Maui. I'm thinking of going to Hawaii next month. Chicago, San Diego, England, Austria, Netherlands, Iowa, Canada, Pittsburgh, New Zealand. So many places all over the world. Sweden, Australia, Germany. Crazy. Amsterdam. We're all going through this together all over the world. We're all united and connected. So I'm just going to start. Ireland. I want to go to Ireland. So here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do a very similar technique like I did last time I did the Q&A, which is I'm going to just, so for those of you that don't know, I put a post up about 5 days prior to the live, and I invite all of you to leave your questions in the comments. It's in the community section. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to take my phone and just scroll and answer the questions kind of innately, intuitively. When I choose the questions myself through like Lori Ego, there's always this filter that comes through of like, do I want to answer that? Do I not want to answer that? And when I do it very in the moment, we get exactly what we need. So let's begin. We're going to go for about an hour. Let's see. Also, I channel a group of beings, higher dimensional light beings, a council of 12. I also have a couple other sort of ascended masters that are here that are going to provide some information if they choose. Okay. I am very well. I've had a very crazy week. I had a massive shift, massive shift. So I've been exhausted. I slept from 4 p.m. yesterday until 6 a.m. I've been sleeping a lot. I've been anchoring a lot of higher frequencies into my body, a lot of letting go, a lot of stuff happening. So yeah. Okay, let's start with the first question. This is from Leah. Here's the question. A few days ago, I caught myself asking whether I'm on the wrong timeline, since nothing is happening in terms of disclosure, discontinuation of the V. I'm not going to say the word because I will get censored. So we all know what the V means. How do we know we're on the right path? So the first thing that I'm hearing as this question is being asked, two things. One is there is disclosure happening. It's just not in the way that we were or are expecting it or attached to. So we have an attachment or an expectation around how this disclosure is going to be unraveled. So trusting and knowing that it is unraveling and it is happening. It's just happening in the divine flow of where the human collective is at, where the human collective's consciousness is at. The timeline that we're on right now is an accelerated timeline And in this now moment, as we are experiencing this accelerated timeline, it feels very slow or paused. Like what's going on? Nothing's happening. Like everything's stopped. There was um, all this movement up until the end of January. And even into a little bit of February, but things have kind of quieted. There is a massive pop or jolt that's going to happen on this timeline for a lot of humans in the next few months. But there is a settling in. Here's what they're saying. There's a settling in right now of the reality of what's occurring in the external. So it's almost like, imagine if you had a trauma or a death, right? Some sort of traumatic experience. First, there's a shock, and there's a reaction, and there's a almost like, I can't believe this is actually happening. And then you start to settle down in, and you're like, oh, holy cow, wait a second. How am I now going to be? How am I now going to act? How am I now going to respond? So we're in this second phase of this sort of trauma, this sort of massive collective shift. The jolt, the sort of massive shock was, holy cow. There is, and this is what they're saying, there is a V coming. There is a V here. There is a mandated sort of experience that humans are going to have. There's a taking away of our rights, testing, all of these things that the human collective is experiencing right now. So we're in a pause where we are preparing our physical bodies to be able to move through what is coming. I have no idea if what I just said makes sense. We're in a pause. I'm going to say it over again quicker. We're in a pause in an expedited timeline, in a timeline that has sped up. All of our bodies, many of our bodies, are speeding up in frequency in order to be able to sort of take on or be prepared for what is coming in the external. Okay. And it's all divine and it's all perfect. So there is no such thing as a wrong timeline. This is the perfect timeline. This is the expedited timeline, believe it or not. But you have to understand that it's the physical body that allows you to tap into the higher states of consciousness. It's the physical body that allows you to shift the human collective. It's the physical body that allows you to shift timelines for the human collective. So our bodies are being upgraded right now. And they've been being upgraded for a couple months, but very much so in February. Because what's coming in March, April, May, we have to be anchored in these higher states. We have to be anchored in these higher states so that we can see through the illusion of what is being thrown at us. So we have better sort of skills or tools to navigate what's coming. Does this make sense? So disclosure is happening right now. All of these things are happening right now, maybe not in the way that you expect them to, but it's happening right now. There's a preparation that we need to be at. We need to be prepared. So when you are experiencing everything that you're experiencing in this now moment, can you take it as an opportunity to be able to step up as the light worker and way shower that you are, instead of complaining about it, instead of not wanting to be experiencing it? See, this is what the human does. The human has questions like, why are we not shifting fast enough? Why is this bad stuff still happening? Why haven't we seen disclosure? Why haven't we seen all these things, right? And yet in the same now moment, you're experiencing all of this trauma, all of these emotions, thoughts, beliefs, relationships ending, jobs ending, all these things happening around you. And then you get upset, or we get upset over what is occurring in our now. Why is this happening? I don't want this to happen. What's happening to many of us is that we are catapulting ourselves into higher states of consciousness, anchoring ourselves into higher states of consciousness, and it looks like chaos. It looks like an up and down roller coaster. It looks like exactly what you are feeling. So instead of looking at your now as something that is not good, as something that is bad, pulling you down, not in the right direction, can you start to look at every now moment as the opportunity to assist the entire human collective? We're in this cocoon phase right now when we're getting all of these opportunities to anchor more light, which feels like trauma, which feels like emotions, which feels like addictions, which feels like beliefs, which feels like behaviors that don't work any longer, that don't resonate, things that you have to release and let go of. So instead of using the lens of, are we on the wrong timeline? Nothing's happening. Everything sucks in my life. I don't like feeling this. I don't like going through this. Change the lens. This is the most expedited timeline that we could possibly be on. We are in a cocoon or a pause phase so that your physical body can get prepared for what's coming. Because what's coming is much more intense than what you're in right now. And every single thing in your now moment is a preparation and an ability to be able to step deeper and anchor deeper into higher states of consciousness. You're preparing. You're preparing to be the warrior of light that you came onto the planet to be. So devour every now moment as an opportunity to stand up and to be that warrior of light. It's all unraveling. It's all going to continue to unravel. Just let go of the expectation. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the next question. Why do some people react like crazy to those intense energies, anxiety, depression, headache, and it seems other people aren't really bothered by it? Because it seems I'm the only one in my family having problems. It's not a problem. It's called ascension. And there's just no way of explaining to them what's going on with me. I'm going to read it one more time. Why do so many people react like crazy to those intense energies, anxiety, depression, headache, etc.? And it seems other people aren't really bothered by it because it seems I'm the only one in my family having problems. Okay, so first of all, Martina, you're not having problems. So we want to reframe, okay? Going back to that first answer, right, that we just went through. Can you start to look at every single thing that you are experiencing as an opportunity to anchor higher frequencies? So what does that mean? If you're feeling anxiety, what is a way that you can navigate through that anxiety? How can you maneuver feeling the anxiety so the anxiety doesn't control you anymore? That is being in higher states of consciousness. So instead of giving over to your emotions as if you don't have control and you are a victim, these are ascension symptoms, there's nothing I can do, there's something wrong with me. No, instead you say, okay, this is an opportunity for me to practice not only anchoring higher frequencies, but stepping into and being higher states of consciousness. So when you feel anxiety, when you feel stress, when you feel fear, when you feel unworthy, when you feel lack, when you feel depression, whatever you feel, see it as an opportunity and then start to practice new ways of being with it. Instead of giving it your power and your control as if it is in charge. Emotions are just energy. They have no power or control over you. So you start to practice these higher states of consciousness that we have been. It's like, this is what my guides are saying. Every now moment, we are given an opportunity to practice these higher states. And so many of us still get caught up in this third dimensional matrix of something's wrong with me. I'm not good enough. this controls me, this has power over me, I can't get rid of this, etc., etc., etc. And these are the most beautiful gifts. So when you have anxiety, can you breathe? When you have stress, can you stop and meditate for a moment? Can you go outside? Can you get sun on your face and on your body? Right? Maybe you need to drink more water. Maybe you need to move your body more. I don't know. Maybe you need to journal. These are all opportunities. And why are many people not feeling them right now? You have to be embodied and aware, which means that you have to not be out of your body and unconscious. And an unconscious human is a human that is just doing, 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 doing. An unconscious human is unaware of every now moment of what they're feeling, of what they're thinking, of what they're being, of what they're doing. There is nothing wrong with a conscious or an unconscious human. There's no such thing as better than. We've all been unconscious. So just because you're conscious and you're feeling these things doesn't mean you're better. It just means that you're conscious of it. So the humans that are just living life and experiencing it all and having a pretty good time while you're just like, I've been in bed for 18 hours. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm recognizing all of these things that are unraveling in the world, all the chaos, all the what's the word I want to use? Corruption, all of these things. And then you got family members that are just living life to the fullest, right? Let them be. Just let them be. The only thing you need to be concerned about or focused on is your sovereign field. You, right here. Because as you anchor, as you practice higher states of consciousness, you will open the gates for the family members that aren't necessarily conscious yet. Remember that there is a very small percentage of us that are actually on the front lines doing this. Okay, there's a very small percentage. So for most of us, we're going to look around and we may be the only one really experiencing these intense shifts. Let that be okay. Can you let it be okay that you are the only one in your family going through this? Can you let that be okay? Instead of saying that you're having problems or that there's something wrong with you. You courageously chose to come in to this physical body that you're in right now, and you courageously chose to awaken, embody, and shift, which means you may feel crazy at times. You're going to feel a lot of different things. We just keep going. We just keep moving forward. Reframe it, you guys. Reframe it. All right, let's pick another one. Okay, I'm literally just scrolling and stopping. Otherwise, my ego will pick. So, all right. Hi, Lori. I'm sending you so much love. I've heard some discussion that there is a second Earth to which many will be transported or transferred to, maybe in spaceships. That this current Earth will remain in 3D. Could this be clarified? Sure. Okay. So there's one Earth. There will only be one Earth. This is how I describe the quantum field. So we don't go anywhere. Just start focusing on your now moment, okay? And you'll recognize that there is no second Earth. There is no other place that you're going to go. You're doing it right here, right now. You're tapping into different dimensional fields right here, right now. You're moving back and forth into different dimensional realms right here, right now. You're not being transported anywhere. There isn't a second Earth that holds a 5D field that you're going to fly to. 5D Earth is right here, right now. 4D Earth is right here, right now. 3D Earth is right here, right now. So here's how I want you to visualize the quantum field. A quantum field is I just want you to imagine it like one big, large bubble. Okay? All that ever is, was, and will be. Every consciousness that's split from source, source being whatever you want to call it, God, spark, the void, the everything. Once a consciousness splits, it enters the quantum field, this huge cloud that's infinite. To even say it's a cloud is not correct, but for the sake of our linear minds, okay? When you're inside that quantum field, everything exists right here, right now. And so when you are sitting in this third dimensional plane that we're in, this third dimensional field, this third dimensional matrix with an earth, at the exact same time, right above it, so to speak, but in the same now is a fourth dimensional earth that can only be experienced if you are holding 4D consciousness. So a person and 5D is right here, right now. 5D Earth is right here, right now. It exists right here, right now. It starts to appear for you when you're holding 5D consciousness, i.e. when your body is holding 5D consciousness, 5D energies, 5D light. Meaning the energy in your body is vibrating in a fifth dimensional frequency, which is just a hertz, so to speak, okay? It's a vibrational rate or vibrational tone that we call 5D. All energy moves and spins, and it creates a hertz or a frequency that can be measured in some way, and then it's in a dimensional field. You only see and you only experience what your body is vibrating at. And what a lot of us are starting to recognize is that two people can be standing on the same rock, okay, or on the same park path. A human that's holding very dense energy, very third dimensional, very heavy, no right or wrong, just a very heavy body energetically. And then there's another individual that's holding a much higher, lighter body, more high frequency, okay? We'll call that like more of they're tapping into 5D consciousness. They're tapping into 3D consciousness. They're on the same earth plane. But here's what happens when they start to walk down the path. Let's say there's a tree. The 3D human is just perhaps won't even see the tree. But if they see the tree, they may not even take a second look at it. They're just going to keep talking and thinking in their head, planning things out, complaining about things, worried about something. The human that's starting to tap into 5D is going to see that tree in a different frequency. Maybe they see it vibrating a little bit. Maybe they connect to it energetically. Maybe they actually hear something from the tree, right? That's 5D Earth. At the exact same time, 3D Earth is existing in that same now moment when this 3D human doesn't even necessarily see the tree because they are so much in their head. We don't go anywhere. Everything shifts right here. And so we start to see a very massive split. And this split is becoming and will become more and more obvious to us, where we are literally starting to experience and see and feel things that are very different from other humans. Because our bodies are finally and miraculously starting to anchor fifth dimensional energies. I want to share something with you. When you anchor consciousness into your body, you actually start to stand physically in that dimensional field. Anchoring consciousness into the physical body is very different than experiencing consciousness, tapping into higher states of consciousness, being these higher states of consciousness back and forth throughout your day. Anchoring a dimensional field or a 5D field and 5D consciousness, anchoring it means that you will live it in your now moment, as opposed to going like this, which all of us are doing right now. right? We're moving down and we're moving up. We're going down into that 3D, up into the 5D, down into the 3D, up into the 5D, maybe even higher, who knows, right? So this is what we're doing because we haven't anchored into 5D yet. Right now, many of us are beginning to anchor into 5D. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I never, ever thought it would happen this quickly, ever. And the only reason I'm saying this is because I'm starting to do it. And when you start to anchor into 5D, you physically no longer can be in the third dimensional matrix. And the reason, so things, you just can't do and be and experience the same things. So we've been practicing detaching, we've been practicing letting go, we've been practicing new ways of exercising or eating or relationships or jobs, all these things. We've been practicing this so that when we start anchoring down into the next dimensional field, the 5D field, we'll be ready for it because there's a lot of mourning that happens. A lot of things you have to let go of. And many of us are not ready to let go. The reason my guide said that we're starting to anchor right now is because whatever is coming down the chute for the human collective to shift, right? Because remember, the human collective is moving into the 5D field. It's an absolute. It is not a, God, I hope we're going to do it, right? It's an absolute. We, as the light workers, the way showers, the star seeds, whatever name you want to call us, we have to be anchored outside of this third dimensional matrix in order to be able to knock down and literally charge through what I would like to call nonsense, but the dense, heavy fear, control, and manipulation, mind control, these programs that we have been inundated in and stuck in our whole lives. So instead of feeling fear or anger or rage around it, we will know exactly how to maneuver it, shift it, not play in it, because we are anchored in these higher states of consciousness. Right now, we're teetering between, I see what's happening in the external. I know that it isn't for my highest good. I know that I'm here to shift this, but I still feel the fear or the anger or the rage or whatever it is. We're teetering. There's going to be a pop, a jump, which is what many of you right now are going through, is this flip, this jump, this anchoring. And anchoring takes a while. It's not an overnight. But we're anchoring right now. We're starting to anchor. And it's very natural when you start anchoring 5D consciousness, because what happens is you know exactly what to do with that fear, that manipulation, that mind control, that the chaos, right, that has been controlling and manipulating us our whole lives. It's like a magic pill that we swallow when we start to anchor 5D. And because we're going first, nobody's done this. We don't really know what's happening. So it's an amazing thing to know that we're anchoring now, because it means that we need to be anchoring now because something big is coming. And we need to be anchoring now so that we can navigate it with as much ease and grace, love, compassion, and empathy as we possibly can. So that we can understand how to stand in sovereignty, how to speak truth, how to understand our rights, how to do all the things that we may be required to do to navigate what's coming. And when you anchor 5D consciousness, you start anchoring it, you're not going to be concerned about the wrong timeline. You won't think that we're going down the wrong path. Why would you be anchoring higher states of consciousness if we were going down the wrong path? You're anchoring higher states of consciousness, by the way, so that you can tear that down, dismantle it, break humanity free from it. Okay, next question. Okay, will we be experiencing some level of famine? Will they be requiring the V in order to be able to make purchases and work? How far will this control play out before the pendulum swings back? Will we be experiencing some level of famine? Will they be requiring the V in order to be able to make purchases and work? And how far will this control play out before the pendulum swings back? It's a really great question. It's all up to you. That's what they're saying. It's all up to you. How many of you are in doubt? They're asking. How many of you are in doubt? Okay, so imagine, here's how I want you to imagine the message that's coming through. Imagine you're creating, you're manifesting something in your life, okay? And you know how to manifest. Many of us know how to manifest. We intend for something to be in our life, let's say a new job, right? And then we may have a vision board maybe, or we feel into it. We see ourselves doing this new job. We can feel it in our bodies. We visualize what we look like, etc. If you constantly had doubt around that manifestation and intention, how quickly would it appear? Or how often would you be in doubt? How often would you be in doubt compared to how often would you know that it's going to appear, no matter when it appears? It's the same thing with what's happening right now. These are storylines. Famine is a storyline. A card that we may need to travel, showing that we got a V, is a storyline. What else is a storyline? I don't know. There's tons of them. Okay, these are storylines that can absolutely play out or that could not play out. Here's one of the hardest roles that we have, they're saying. Can you stop playing in the storyline? Okay, meaning just because there's a storyline there doesn't mean you have to play in it or give it attention. What if it didn't matter? What if all that mattered was in the now moment of what you were faced? What if that was all that mattered? In your community, in your family, in your friends, like whatever's happening in your now. If humanity, or at least the awakened ones, focused only on what was in the now, they're saying the shift would happen much faster. Imagine energy being drained or sucked from your field when you're in a future wondering about something, preparing for something. When the change and the shift is in the now. It's a very third dimensional matrix type of way of being. It makes sense. It's a programmed way of being, preparation, anticipating, wondering, worrying. But the next time you're in that, the next time you read a storyline, you hear a storyline, and it's a future storyline of what's going to happen or what may happen, feel how that feels energetically. Ask yourself how it feels. Does it energetically feel like something is literally moving out of your field and going into some other space and time that's not now? If you were told if beautiful higher dimensional beings came in, or angels came down, or another version of you came down and said, listen, we can't tell you what's going to happen in the next now moments. Everything is a crapshoot right now for humanity. But we can promise you that the more you can stay in the now moment of what is occurring for you, what is popping up for you. Are you being required to take the V? Are you having to take tests? Are you having to do this with your kids? Are you getting a divorce? What is in your now? And if you remember that that is always for your highest good, shifting you into higher states of consciousness and anchoring you into these higher states, which is always going to benefit you and the entire human collective. On top of the fact that it's going to change timelines and storylines, would you do it? There is a belief system, and it's true, that if you focus on that storyline and prepare for it, you'll be more ready when it comes. There's also a belief that that storyline may never happen. There's also a belief that you have, and we have, the ability to shift it by not paying attention to it and by choosing how to be in the now moment here. This is where it all happens. Will there be famine? Perhaps. Perhaps not. What does it matter right now in the now? When you start anchoring into these higher states, you start to, I want you to visualize, I had this great analogy come in. I want you to visualize a boat, okay? And you're floating on, you're the boat, and you're on the water, and you're on an ocean, okay? And the boat it rocks and it moves with the waves. It's very natural the way it just is on the ocean. But underneath the ocean is a grounded body, right? There's a land down there. And when you put an anchor down from the boat into the land, it connects to the land and it grounds the boat down. So the boat is steady and firm, yet it's still just allowing itself to experience everything. And it's only concerned about what is it's experiencing in the now while it is grounded and attached. The third dimension is that ground down below. Okay? It's that ground down below. And you are floating and you're grounded down, you're anchored down into that third dimension, but you're holding higher states of consciousness now. So you don't ever escape this third dimensional field. You see it, you honor it, you acknowledge it, you're attached to it. But you're now experiencing life from a very different lens. And you're not getting so caught up. And yet you're still speaking your truth. Because in that higher state of consciousness, you're sovereign. Nobody tells you what to do unless you let them. You learn how to navigate that. Right? So this is what's happening to us. This is what we're learning. This is what we're practicing. And from this state of sort of just floating, right, and anchored down, when you anchor down and you tap into that ground, there's all these storylines. What's going to happen to the financial system? What's going to happen to the food system? What's going to happen to a lot of different things? There is going to be more chaos. There's going to be more destruction. There's going to be more death. There's going to be more heaviness. But you are being asked to float, anchored, being, remembering, and teaching humanity how to move through this without being stuck in it. So you're never detached from the storylines. You are watching the storylines. And you are a Jedi learning how to navigate that matrix. You're learning how to navigate that matrix because none of us separate from this third dimensional matrix, meaning none of us leave this matrix. We just shift our beingness out of it. So we're standing in it, but we're being out of it. We're in it, but we're not of it. Okay. I answered that kind of question already. Let's see. Okay, let's see this one. Hi, Lori. I find with the intense world politics now, even just glancing at news lowers my vibe. Is there something we can do to deal with this, i.e. certain snap out of it meditations? Well, it's all a choice. Everything's a choice. So what you're going to start realizing, it seems like we're in this sort of like theme right now during this whole thing. What you're going to start to realize when you're in the matrix, but not of the matrix, when you're floating on that boat anchored to the matrix, what you're going to notice is that you're going to be watching a movie. Like, what are they saying? This is insane, right? You're going to be watching now. You're going to be an observer, like you're watching a play. And so you have choice. If you don't like watching something, turn it off. If you don't want to participate in something, turn it off. If you have to participate in something that doesn't feel good to you, change your lens. Be the observer in the situation that you wish you weren't in. Change it. Change the way you're viewing the dynamics between you and the people that you have to be with that you don't want to be with. When you become an observer, things can become real fun. Because when you're the observer, everything is sort of like you're looking at it through a movie screen. You're in it, you're experiencing it, you're feeling everything. You don't detach, you don't bypass. But you're just the observer. Oh, look at how I'm feeling now. Look at what that person's saying back in response. Oh, look at how they're interacting. Oh, look at what we're doing now. Look at how we like to do this, right? You're watching. Becomes fun. The human becomes fun to watch, right? So is there something you can do to deal with this? Choice. It's called choice. Choose. How do we support our young children, especially the really young ones under 6 years old? Will they be experiencing ascension in the same way that adults do? I think I answer this one all the time, but it's a really important one. So the children are experiencing this in silence, more in silence. And the adolescents. And what do I mean by that? They are as an adult, you kind of understand more of what's going on. You speak it, you have a voice, you understand, how to navigate relationships and how to navigate conversations and how to express your emotions, how to talk about your emotions, et cetera, et cetera. These kids are experiencing everything that you and I are. Many of them are. And so they just don't necessarily have the vocabulary for it, nor do they think that it is okay to talk about it or express it. So they're silent. Now, many of these kids and adolescents are holding more light in their body than we are. They came in with a higher light quotient. Briefly, a light quotient is the amount of light that you brought into your body as your soul or spirit. It's a percentage. The human body can only hold a certain percentage of your light quotient because otherwise it will literally short circuit. most of us, you and I on here, brought in between 8 and 11% of our actual light quotient. Children coming in now and adolescents, and some in their 20s as well, are holding 11, 12, 13, 14, 15% of their light quotient. So although they're going through the same sort of experiences of shifting, they're in a higher frequency already. So it's not as intense as what you and I are going through. They're not struggling as much on an energetic level. So on a physical level, they're not struggling as much, perhaps. But they still are going through it. And so it's just in a little bit of a less intensity. Also, the children and the adolescents are much more aware and awake than we give them credit for. If there's any advice I can give you, if you have a child or an adolescent or even a young kid, a young 2-year-old, 3-year-old, my recommendation is to not treat them like the age that they are, but to talk to them like a being of light. That's the advice I would give you. Obviously, you have to parent them. I understand that. But when it comes to a higher perspective of connecting and being with them, speak to them like they are a being of light and not a young 3-year-old that doesn't understand. Because I can tell you right now, the second you start doing that, you will be in awe of what they will say to you. They need to be seen and heard. They need to be honored. They need to be acknowledged. Even adolescents that are acting out. There is a being of light inside of there trying to navigate this. And if you came in, these kids and these adolescents came in with more light, it's much more difficult to be in the body. It's much more difficult to be in the body. You don't want to be in there. You don't want to go through things. You don't want to see what's happening in the world, right? It's challenging to be the human. It's very challenging. They came in awake. They haven't gone to sleep like we did. They don't have the same type of amnesia that we have or that we had. So the waking up process is very different, even though they are experiencing the same shifts that we're experiencing. Meaning the same amount of light is coming in. They're anchoring down into that 5D because the body has to anchor into that 5D. They're learning how to release any trauma that they may have, right? Many of these kids don't have the same type of Akashic records. They don't have karma. They are coming in disconnected from those universal laws that we connect to. Many of them. So they're going through the same shifts, right? They're moving through the same shifts as we are, but it's experienced not as intensely, and yet it's very intense for them. It's just a different intensity. It's a very different experience they're having, and yet it's the same shifting, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Meaning we're all moving into these higher realms and this higher dimensional field, but we're going to do it a little bit differently based on the light quotient that's in the body, our Akashic records, our traumas, etc., etc. But please, if you're a parent and you have a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 18-year-old, 7-year-old, I don't care what age, and you have a feeling that they're going through it, talk to them like a normal human. Talk to them like a being instead of a 7-year-old. And I promise you, you'll get a lot more information out of them on what they know, what they're experiencing in their dream state, what they're experiencing in their waking state, what they see, what they feel, what they hear. And the more you can allow that to be okay by talking about your own experiences, the more they will feel okay about what they're experiencing. The number one thing that I've received from my children and adolescents group is that they finally felt like they were okay, that they were normal. They didn't feel weird anymore. And why did they not feel weird anymore? because I validated every single thing they felt. I validated every experience they had. I validated all of it. I never questioned them. I never doubted them. I never asked, why would you possibly, none of that. That's the best way that we can help these kids and adolescents right now, in my opinion. Okay, let's see. I don't know anything about Table Mountain in Cape Town, South Africa. Was it a positive alien base or dark side base? I don't know. Should we be avoiding the PCR test? It's up to you. I would do research around the PCR test. I would do a lot of research on the PCR test, and I would do research on DuckDuckGo, not Google. Google is not going to give you, Google will give you bias information on everything. So Google is very censored. So if you want information about the PCR test, I would look for alternate resources and read up on it. Okay, what's else? When will things improve? Things are improving right now while they're also getting more intense. Remember the lens you're using, right? The more intense it gets, it's also improving at the exact same time because more humans are waking up. If you could visualize the earth, okay, and the amount of light that is being held on the earth right now, it's never been this bright. It's never been this high of a frequency. I'm going to repeat that. The earth and the human body has never been this high of a frequency. So when is it going to get better? Every now moment it's getting better. Or what was the question? When is it going to improve? Every now moment there's more light being held in your body. Every now moment there's more light being held on the earth plane. And when we do that, what happens is that externally it looks like it's getting worse because the light is shining on the shadow. What lens are you using to see it? The light is shining on the shadow. We have to be able to see the dark. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful gift to see the dark. And the more we see the dark, meaning the denser consciousnesses, the denser systems that have been in play for so long, the more we see these consciousnesses playing out, the faster we'll be able to shift it. So when you use the lens of, oh, it's getting more and more intense, great, bring it on. Let's keep going. How can I anchor into these higher states? How can I anchor into these higher states? Instead of being worried, freaked out, holy cow, what are we going to do? Instead, you say, hallelujah, bring it on. We are going to get through this no matter what. And my role here is to hold these higher states over and over and over again so I can navigate this with as much ease and grace as possible. With as much ease and grace as possible. These are by far the most prolific, challenging, intense, magical moments we've ever had as the human. Not only are we physically shifting out of a dimensional field and into another dimensional field, physically, like it's legit physically happening. But we are shifting an entire human collective physically out of a dimensional field and into another dimensional field. And this is a process. It takes linear time. So each time you are looking out at the external, just ask yourself, what lens are you using? Don't beat yourself up. Whatever lens you're using. they're saying right now, they're saying a couple things. One, they're saying hold the line or hold sovereignty. So really holding your truth. And if you can't hold your truth, that's okay. The other thing they're saying is the more you can embody love, compassion, and empathy, meaning the more you can practice experiencing within your physical form love, compassion, and empathy, which is not easy for us, the easier it will be to hold that lens of like, all is well, we're going to get through this. So the more you can hold love, compassion, and empathy as you stare out into the external and you stare in at your own internal, the more at peace you will be when you go through this. So one last piece that's coming in. The hardest thing you're going to be faced with is holding Here's what they're saying. They're asking you to please remember what you already know. Where humanity is going. Please remember what you already know, which is where humanity is going. It's a done deal, basically, okay? Because what we are about to go through is going to test that remembrance and knowingness. And they're saying fortitude, which I don't even know what that word means, what fortitude means, but they're saying fortitude. I'm going to tell you what they're showing me. Okay, I'm going to tell you what they're showing me. Take it with a grain of salt. Throw it out the window. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't need to resonate. It doesn't need to make sense, and you don't need to hold it. There is an experiment that is happening on the earth plane right now that is trying to literally alter the human. And it is very similar to what was done millions of years ago when humans were in a 5D field and they lived on the continents that you call Lemuria and Atlantis. They altered the human body and created new humans. And they created new humans that were in lower frequencies and lower vibrations. And because there is free will, we had to allow that to unravel. Now we want to remind all of you that history is repeating itself. But the difference, and this is massive and this is key, many of you were there millions of years ago on Atlantis and in Lemuria watching this happen. But here's what we want you to remember. The experiments that are being done right now, regardless of how far it goes, cannot in any way, shape, or form pull the human collective or the earth plane down into lower frequencies. because there is too much light that has now been anchored into the human collective's field and the Earth's field. But we have to allow free will to play out, which is why it is extremely important that you hold the remembrance of where you know humanity is going and you stop playing in the storylines. That is the most powerful thing that you can do. Stop playing in the storylines. Hold firm to your freedom. Hold firm to your sovereignty with an open heart and with compassion and with empathy. Instead of the doomsday, there is no way around what is occurring. The only way around it is through it with your light. The only way around it is through it with your light. This is why we have been asking you to practice sovereignty. This is why you have had an opportunity in every now moment to step deeper into these higher states of being so that you can activate the remembrance of what you already know, because the more you remember, the easier this will be. The more you remember what you already know, the easier this is going to be. The human believes that there's a ton of action that needs to happen, and there is action that needs to happen. But there is a beingness that is more powerful and potent, that is underrated in the third dimensional matrix, but has more potency and power than doing. Beingness has more potency and power than doing, even though doing is extremely important. So you are learning how to balance and step deep into your sovereignty while you stay an open-hearted human with compassion and empathy, and yet a firm stance in how you want to experience your now moments. History will not repeat itself. You are on a trajectory and you are already in a 5D field. You now have to dismantle the consciousnesses that pulled the earth down millions of years ago. This has always been the design. The consciousnesses that pulled the earth down have always been the consciousnesses that the light workers, way showers, star seeds would have to dismantle. And that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. So trust everything that's in the now for you. Devour it as if it is the tool and the next opportunity to anchor deeper into these states of consciousness, to be able to stand up for humanity and for why you came here. Don't buy into those storylines. Because if you do, then you're giving your energy and power to them. You watch it like a movie. Like you're the boat and you're looking down and you're watching this play out, but you remember the outcome. All of you remember where we're going. All of you. So pay attention. Pay attention to what's really happening externally. Pay attention to the agendas. Pay attention to the censorship. Pay attention to the words that are being used by these individuals and these systems. Look deeper into it. Look through it. See it for what it is. It's consciousnesses that have been on the earth plane, holding the earth and humanity in lower states. And that are trying their best to keep the human in the lower states. As we push through the ceiling of the third dimensional matrix and we anchor and hold the higher states of consciousness. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter. Okay. All right. That was a little message for you all. There you go. Okay, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Really, thank you for being here. Not just here with me now, but here on the earth, here in your physical body. Pass this video along if you think it's something that somebody needs to hear. And I appreciate you all very, very much. Be gentle with yourself. Give yourself and the rest of the humans more compassion and more empathy. Hopefully these messages were useful for you in some way, shape, or form. I love you.